We're live.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Once and Future podcast. Nope, Once and Future Parent podcast. I'm a little punch drunk, and that's kind of what we're talking about today because, friends, the bloom is off the rose. The perfect little angel that I've held in my arms for 2 months has turned into a little stinker who's causing all kinds of problems, and it's wonderful, and we love him very much, which is why we haven't chucked him through a window yet, as Mandy put it so wonderfully well. And so today we're talking about frustration because I was not planning to be holding a baby in my arms as I was recording with you all today, and I'll tell the story of how that happened. And I think that's opening up a door to something that's going to be part of a lot of parenthood, is that you make plans, you try to figure things out, it doesn't go your way, and it gets frustrating. And one of the things I think we've been thinking about in our home a lot is that it's hard to acknowledge that we're frustrated, and it's hard to acknowledge and admit to our partners and to our family that we're frustrated because, of course, don't we want to show everyone that we're the perfect little parent and we have the perfect little child? So, yeah, this is the topic we're going to be talking about. I'll be trying to editing out these noises of my baby adorably sucking on a bottle in my arms. And I'm going to turn it over to you two. You probably had perfect little angels the entire time, right? You were never frustrated at all during any moment of parenthood, especially
This
in
is
that
all
first year.
new to me. This is all new. I'm so sorry.
Can I first say I'm Mandy Kaplan and
Yes.
Pete Wright is
Yeah.
the other person participating. I feel like we don't introduce ourselves. So anyone joining the podcast, I have a 15-year-old son named Casey, and Pete.
I have a 23-year-old named Sophia and a 19-year-old named Nick.
Okay. Off
And
to the
I-
races.
And I am Matthew Fox, aka the Ethical Panda, and I have a beautiful little child named Penn who just spat up all over me.
Yeah, Penn.
Go get it.
$5 for Penn.
That's going to be the GIF. I'm sure we captured that on camera.
Okay, so Mandy, you are just, I mean, if anybody says anything about Mandy, it's Mandy is legendarily zen and so calm and so chill.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how do you do
and I
it?
take everything very seriously. You know, I have a real problem with keeping score. And that was when I
Like against
was-
your child, right?
no, again, partner wise and other parent wise. And I was always comparing in a terribly unhealthy way. It was, you know, it's not fair because I did the last 3 feedings and you haven't done one. Or, you know, you're talking with your friends and they're like, I only got 4 hours of sleep. And I'm like, I only got 2. I was always keeping score. And I do it today with other things. It's wildly unhealthy. I don't recommend it. And that's what was destroying me. And that's what was contributing to my postpartum and my I went to therapy, and my therapist was like, congratulations, you win. You have it the hardest. You're the
Yeah.
best. Stop keeping score. So that was my journey at the phase you're in, Matthew.
The keeping score thing, like how does that manifest in your marriage? Like how, because I found I was very similar to that, and neither of us ever felt like we were winning.
Well, I always win because that's the rule in our marriage. And it was not good. My, you know, Jer to this day, he's an extraordinary father. And I will say, you didn't tell him that he has to do his homework before he uses his drone outside.
Yeah.
And Jer's like, okay, you win. Congratulations. You're better than me. And I
Yeah.
still do it. It's awful.
Yeah.
Jer deserves an award for
Yeah.
staying with me.
Certainly a crown of some sort.
Yes.
I definitely can hear what you're saying, and I think we haven't quite gotten to there yet, but I can see it. I can see that possibility. I think we're in a weird place where it's more the because we're still doing the sleeping in shifts thing where
Mhm.
I take him from about 9 till 4 or 5, and then I go to sleep and Mary wakes up, and so there's often the question of like, okay, who did he sleep more for? And on some level, I think we're both pretty good, and we're checking in a lot to make sure of this, but just brain weasels are going to do what brain weasels are going to do. They're there all the time. And so there are times when I hear that he slept wonderfully for Mary and he didn't for me, and I think, oh gosh, well, what am I doing wrong? Why is he sleeping better for Mary? And then there are times where that it gets flipped on the head, where it's, let me show you how hard I had it. Like, okay, you think you only got this amount of sleep, but I didn't. I only got this amount of sleep. I had to change the diaper 4 times in this
Keeping
time.
score.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's it.
it's the keeping score, and it's the, and Mary and I talk all the time about how we make sure it's the 2 of us together in this, and then all the rest of our village together. Not against him, but even though it can feel that way, but just against all the things. But you're right. It is so easy to keep score, and it's you're keeping score on all these different levels, because it's the level of like, well, which one of us has done the most work and therefore deserves a break. It's the which one of us. Sometimes we can flip it on the head and be like, which one of us can be a bigger martyr,
Yep.
And
That's
oh,
really
no,
dangerous.
and that becomes a thing. Yeah, it's just it's interesting how much and it's funny, Mandy and I were talking just before you came on, Pete, about fantasy football and the NFL season right now and how much we love that. And Mandy and I are in a fantasy football league. There's nothing at stake whatsoever, but of course we care about it. And Mandy just trashed my wife in it, was trash talking my wife a bit, very fairly so.
Yeah.
But it just reminds me, we make competitions out of everything, and you're right, we absolutely, I'm sure, do it with childhood.
Yeah, I think the who had it harder, maybe that gets easier over time, but the trump card of I actually gave birth to this thing will always win. And so I try, I remember being super aware of the experience of being present, knowing after the child was in my arms that I didn't have to carry it for 9 months and I didn't have to give birth to it. And that is a bit of a salve in those times when I'm super frustrated, because I just have to remember, I know that process was hard. And I'm gonna do my part. As the child gets older, that becomes harder to rationalize, right? Like, there are new problems and new things to strike. And I think keeping score is a very natural thing. And I hadn't really thought about it until bringing this up, just how often it became a scorekeeping exercise, and it manifests in really funny ways as the child gets older. Not even if it's not about homework, it's about, like, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm playing a video game or watching a movie and chaos reigns in the house somewhere else, and I'm not doing anything about it because I did the last chaos. And so I expect, without saying anything, sort of passive aggressively, surely she's going to take care of this chaos. She's not doing anything either because she says her thing is more important than my thing, watching a movie. And that, like, I feel like you have to be super aware of these bitter angels that will step in and make you do stupid things in respect to keeping score, and to because it's not healthy for anybody, and certainly not for the chaos generally.
Right.
It's also, woo, I'm getting emotional. It's also acceptance. Accepting that Penn can't say, oh, Papa, here's what I would like for lunch today, right? He
Right.
can't talk right now yet. It's accepting who he is, and it's accepting who our partner is. And Jer said to me once, very famously, I will never notice that the laundry is full and needs to be done. I will just never notice. But I am not upset if you say, Jer, do the freaking laundry,
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
And I say, I shouldn't have to remind you. It's sitting there full in the hallway, But he really, that's me. Then that's a me problem.
Yeah.
So we have to accept, hey, he's not going to hear the chaos and jump in. I'm going to hear the chaos, and I can either choose to jump in, or I can choose to lovingly say, your turn. Can you jump in and handle the chaos?
Right.
And not resent him for it. And I still work on this all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that layer of, but I had to hear it and tell you to do it. And it's like, but he is who he is, and he's wonderful. He's not going to change.
Wait,
Yeah.
so you're
So-
telling me that once my child is a year old, then and can communicate with me, this doesn't all magically go away?
It just constantly evolves into new things, like rides right now, because
Yeah.
Casey's 15. He's always on the go. He's making plans. He's so sweet and like, thank you for taking me, Mom. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. But the truth is, Jer and I are like, I took him to the movies yesterday. Well, I took him to his friend's house last night. Well, and you're like counting up who's done
Yep.
more drop offs and pickups.
Right.
Oh, that's
And that-
that's the worst. That does go away and is replaced by the nastiness of having to say, well, I stayed up with him last night waiting for him to come home since he has the car. So I was up all night. And that's really I think the core conceit of this show is all about how we navigate the world such that we get sleep. And that never ends. That never
Yeah.
ends.
Well, and I
Well-
think one of the most important things here is, and this really goes to what you were saying, Pete, about like, you and I as the people who did not carry a pregnancy, like recognizing that imbalance that already starts there.
Yeah.
And I think for us, in a lot of ways, recognizing that we're starting a place where things are not equal, because we don't have equal abilities. There are times when Penn wants food that I literally cannot provide, and only Mary can provide when he really wants to breastfeed. Luckily, in our case, for the most part, that isn't the case. But for some couples, I know it really is, or they choose it to be, which is a totally natural, legitimate choice. But it changes things. And in some ways, I feel like the fact that I have a major disability kind of makes this all a little more explicit, because we've already been kind of looking at the idea of the two of us doing an equal amount of, you take out the garbage this week and I take out the garbage next week, doesn't work, because our abilities just don't line that up. And, as it happens, there's a lot of abilities that Mary, I physically cannot carry out the garbage. Mary has a lot of real problems calling strangers on the phone and setting things up. And so I do a lot more of that. And, I think that's always been kind of the guiding principle that we have. But now we have this little guy who we can come up with these great and wonderful plans. And so, for example, in this case, I knew that I was going to have to be up early because I wanted to go help out another friend who's having a hard time. And so we decided that we would get him to sleep, and Mary would get some sleep, but then her mother would come over and take over, and so she could go back to sleep. But as it turned out, even though he slept really well the last couple of nights, last night, little stinker was in total control. Mary got almost no sleep. And so we were planning on her taking him right now when I was on this podcast, but I looked at her and said, you need a nap. Sent her to bed, and now I'm here with him. And, and those are just kind of the adjustments you make, but also, like, I have to fight the part of me that's like, okay, well, she got to take a nap today, so maybe I don't stay up quite as late tomorrow night. Or, how do we adjust these things? And because I think it's not even just that we want to keep score, it's that it's very hard for us not to track those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's instinct for some reason. Right? It's just the mind keeps score. That's weird. Right. Why do we do that to each other?
And to ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, it is self-sabotage, because then the baby, it's like the baby's against you, your spouse is against you, you have you're the most martyr points, congratulations. But now you're just unpleasant to be around.
Yeah.
Not you. I'm
look at
talking
what
about
you've
me.
accomplished, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yay me, I slept
Yeah.
the least, and I haven't showered for the longest, and my life is so hard. And truly, no one gives a shit. It's it's like, what are you winning? I remember hearing, weirdly, Judd Apatow say the exact same thing. I heard him in an interview, and he said, Leslie and I wake up, his lovely wife, Leslie Mann, and the first thing we do is, I bet I got less sleep than you. Right?
Yep.
And that's their conversation over coffee is, well, I woke up at 2. Well, I went back to sleep. Well, I didn't.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I heard that, and I said to Jer, we need to stop counting our sleep and comparing our sleep.
Yeah.
And that was when Casey was like 2 or 3. It is self-defeating.
It's funny. I don't think I ever really put this together until right this moment. But Mary has one of those sleep apps that tracks exactly how much sleep and how much was REM sleep and all this. And I'm very resistant. And I think part of it's for exactly that. I don't want a numerical study of you slept this much and I slept this much and that kind of a thing. But of course, there's so many other things. Now, one thing I'm really aware of, and I'm curious if tell me how this lines up for you all. Me and Mary are dealing with this child. at the same moment, Mary's sister and Mary's cousin both had kids within about 3 weeks of us, on either side. Like a spread of like 5 weeks total. And then also we have another cousin who had a kid a couple months ago, and then my sister had a kid 2 years ago. And again, trying hard not to, but it's really hard, not even keeping score directly, but not to compare ourselves to benchmarks of, okay, their kid was doing this by this time. How was our kid doing? How is, my aunt, sorry, how is my sister-in-law sleeping compared to how is my wife sleeping, and all this kind of stuff. What other kids and parents did you have in your life at an early age, and or I mean, obviously you have them later, at the PTA meetings and stuff. How did that play out with you all?
Well, I have no siblings, and my Kira has a sister who doesn't live anywhere near us, and so and our parents didn't live here when our kids were born. So we really relied on a group of other parents when we were still going to church. And we all seemed to have babies at about the same time. And so we started a rotation very early of, care afternoons. We all happened to be in a place where we could say, as dads, we would each take off a day a week so that we could be at home and watch a lot of babies together. And once they got old enough, they went through and we would do sleepovers together for years and years. And we just a few weekends ago went to the first wedding of one of these children. So like when we were really young, we really relied on one another to make sure that, we had a village, because we didn't have a built-in village of family to help. I don't even know what that's like.
But didn't you compare and contrast? Isn't it impossible? They leave and you're like, oh my God, their baby's so calm and easy. And why is ours so difficult? Or vice versa, their baby's a little shit.
Yeah.
Poor them. And that doesn't stop.
That doesn't stop. And you know what else happens is, and I don't know, Mandy, you probably don't get this because Casey's a joy all the time.
Yes.
But at home, we get word from other parents saying, my God, your kids are incredible. They are so polite, and they do the dishes, and they just are a joy to be around, and they're so well spoken. And at home, they're the worst. What happens?
Yeah.
Why don't I get those kids? The kids that my kids are when they're not with me. That is a score when you start keeping score against your kids. And it's hard not to keep that in your head.
And that already has started. Here I am at 8-9 weeks, and grandma comes over, and he's just the perfect little angel. He's never caused any problems whatsoever.
Oh my goodness!
And then grandma leaves, and the minute the door slams, all of a sudden, this beautiful little stinker just wants to let us know how angry he is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't experience that for the most part. Casey is the same at home as he is out in the world. But the comparing, it's inevitable. You hang out with a couple of their friends and, God, Casey, to me, he's the best kid in the whole wide world. But one thing that I compare right now is Casey at 15 is starting to close off, and he doesn't tell me things anymore.
Yeah.
And I get, how was your day? Good. How are things socially? Good. How's school going? Good. And I'm jealous when I see other kids talking to their parents and filling them in and telling them stories, and but that's not a milestone per se, but it's just we are always playing the comparing game.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And it's brutal, and it's I don't know that you could ever stop.
Well, and it's funny to me how much those things are built in, to our system. Like, people publish things that say my kid is an honor student. Because when you put that on your car, that is keeping score.
Yeah.
Of course.
A big part of what you're saying is, and your kids aren't.
Yes.
And, my kid went to this college. Look, your kid didn't. Like, that's just a thing. And I think in many ways, this is kind of a larger social problem in general of just how do you be proud of your accomplishments without need, or your child's accomplishments without it needing to be a comparison. And that's a whole chapter of psychology that we could spend ages on. But I imagine as parents, it's just such a bigger thing now, because this is a journey that by no means all, the amount of people who go through it is becoming smaller every day. But I think still an overwhelming majority of people do go through this journey of parenthood to some extent or another. And you're right, comparison seems to be a big part of it.
Yeah,
Social media?
The college thing is rough.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But now it's not just a bumper sticker, which
Yeah.
I think is cute. Like, my kid goes to this college. I'm proud. That's great. But social media, if your kid is not hitting their milestones, if your baby is not sitting up, and people out of joy want to post baby's first steps, baby's first words, that's wonderful. They should be able to celebrate those milestones. But God, I mean, my heart breaks for those who are thinking our kid hasn't said a word, and
Yeah.
our baby's 6 months older, and what's wrong? And it's all problematic.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible when that hits and you realize, oh my goodness, I'm a part of it.
Mhm.
Because that's the insidious part, is you sometimes don't even know that you're doing it, that you're a part of this, the ecosystem of shame.
Right.
Yeah.
As we're talking, I'm regretting posting, when Casey won a little award at school for being a champion of character. And I was so proud, and his little toothless grin as he held up his award. And I posted that on Facebook because I was so proud.
Mm-hmm.
But I know he has friends who were getting in trouble at school, and their moms were probably like, F you, Mandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kid
Yeah.
is not getting a champion of character award. My kid is a problem, or struggling to learn how to read, and I didn't think about it until today, just how I wish I had not done those things.
Right.
I haven't
Yeah.
posted anything personal in many years, but there were times when it was just like, I just have to tell the world I'm so proud of my kid. Look
Yeah.
at all he's accomplished.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the social media part is really important here, because what we see on social media is the achievements, is the highest. No one posts, oh yeah, my kid started talking at about the time they're supposed to. And I have friends who are speech pathologists, and at least a couple of them have said to me something like, that since social media, one who's been doing this for a long time, said that kind of as social media has grown, the number of calls they get from concerned parents has just gone up really high. And he has to say, like, yes, your child is not Facebook noteworthy in terms of being a prodigy of speaking at a certain time. That's not a problem. That's not a reason to come talk to a speech therapist. Or on the flip side, hey, yeah, your child is, and that's okay, and we can work with that. But you're not a failure because your child needs this kind of help from physical therapy or speech therapy or anything else.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, we get that as it happens. My wife is a speech therapist, and that is a common, a really common refrain, to the point where, you have parents come into schools and say they're not speaking well. If you don't agree and diagnose, well, we're going to go ahead and find somebody else who will. So there's this ecosystem, this sort of economy of diagnosis out there that keeps ramping up things that are completely normal. And the range of normal is so broad,
Right.
people just don't understand, because social media has refined it to a point. Normal is one thing.
This moment also
frustrating.
tells you a bit about how sleep in kids and stuff like that affects your short and medium term memory, because as Pete says that, I realize the person who I know who's been a speech therapist the longest is Pete's wife. He told me that story while I was there with Pete, and so we can see this as
And
either
my wife.
I'm trying to steal Pete's wife's glory, or Pete is just reminding me that he knows exactly who that person was because he heard that conversation, or because as a pastor, you're taught to sort of like tell things by like, I have a friend who, and
Yes.
you always kind of
Yeah.
make it up. So thank you.
That is
Pete.
delightful. You did not have to out yourself there, but
I do have
I'm
others
glad
in
you
my
did.
life who are younger, but just, who've been doing speech pathology, but just the person who specifically had that moment there.
Yeah.
So there we go.
It's a
But
riot.
look, I have a cute baby. So
You do. Hey, look, cute baby.
Go on YouTube and you can find it.
Well, that's another thing too, I mean, and I know this is a tangential conversation that demands further introspection later, but what I think is really fascinating about it is when your kids are old enough to tell you, stop posting about me on
Yep.
your social media platform. Take
Yep.
that stuff down. I don't want it there. And that's something I think that particularly Mandy and I, of a certain age parent, really had to contend with because we were the first generation posting about our kids on, because
Correct.
social media didn't exist for us when our parents were,
Right.
having us. So yeah, that's tricky. That is a tricky
Yep.
emotional moment when your kids tell you, I have agency and you're blowing it.
Yeah.
You're muted,
I
Matthew.
weirdly,
I get that, and there's a part of me that feels like I never want to post him at all because it's his, agency and things like that. And for the most part, I've tried not to, although I've posted some cute pictures. And once he kind of has some agency of his own, I probably will be avoiding that. But then also there's these moments when like I'm not posting it to social media exclusively, but I did just tell people to go look it up on YouTube because this is where he is right now.
Yeah. He's
Uh,
stinking adorable.
yeah. I mean, it really looks like Casey is only 4 if you look at my social media, right?
Yeah.
It's like it really stopped when he was old enough to say, "Oh, don't do that, mommy.
Yeah.
Don't put that up there." But I do put he's totally fine because he's my kid with using his performances because he
Yes.
does my cabaret miscast and he performs in his choir and stuff like that. He is, when I say I want to post a video of you singing this song for the show, he's like, great, go for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Done. No
Because
problem. Because that's like
he already
professional.
understands boundaries. He's already there.
Yep.
Well, and the social media thing to me is so funny because I think you're right that as it becomes just more normalized, more kids are against it. But also I think it's because parental praise has become more normalized because I can't speak to either of your individual households, but I know for most of us of Gen X, I think part of why we posted stuff about, not me obviously, but like, others posted stuff about, hey, look how cool my kid is because we grew up thinking our parents saying nice things about us anywhere, anytime would be
Yeah.
great.
It would be
The idea
great.
that a kid
Right.
would not want that is like, what do you mean? My dad never said nice things about me. I'm saying it to the world.
Yeah. Let's showcase that. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is all tangential, but I feel we're off the rails. I
Somebody
definitely
is.
feel like there were times when Jer and I would go, oh my God, we are praising Casey for inhaling and exhaling at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's like everything he did. And we still do that. Casey, we're so proud of you. And he's like, it wasn't even a test. It was just this little quiz. And I got
Yeah.
a 10 out of 10. And, but we're like, but we saw a 10 out of 10 and we want to celebrate it and take you to Applebee's. And he's like, you guys can chill.
Applebee's, really?
That's what you do.
Did they say that? Does Casey say, really? Applebee's? That's where we go? I'd like sushi.
Yes, he does.
I totally agree with that. And I think I'm one of those that gets a little grumpy around like you were here ribbons.
Yes.
I don't care
Yeah.
for that. I don't care for
No.
that. If there's gonna be, I don't care for competition in general because I'm just not a terribly competitive person. But once you start giving out ribbons, the you were here present ribbons and trophies are, I don't care for that. I feel like that is an excuse for faint praise, right? It's an excuse for that minimizes praise when it really is due.
Of course. It's the boy who cried wolf, and it just
Yeah.
becomes white noise.
Yeah.
Everywhere our kids go, the long-term effects I've heard from a friend who runs a business,
Mhm.
and she keeps losing employees because these 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds, they need to be told exactly what to do and how to do it, and they need to be praised every step they accomplish. That's what we're doing when we
Jeez.
overpraise and over coddle and over reward. Then how do they do something just because it's my job?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do A
Yeah.
to Z because it's my job. And
Somebody's
no
gotta
one
go
has to
clean
tell
the
me it's good.
toilet in
Yeah.
the Chipotle. Somebody's got to do that, and they got to do it without grousing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're really
Oh.
screwing them up.
We're really screwing them up. And I think we got completely off the rails from our original subject. which now I can tell you I don't remember what it was. I
Well,
got
what I wanted to do was talk about what Matthew is
yeah.
helping Penn through a mood. We don't know what it is. But what I wanted to do was check in with how things are going for Matthew
Mhm.
and the current phase they're in with their
Right.
2-month-old. So to
Yeah.
return to that,
No. That's nice. You want that, but as someone who needs and seeks validation and praise on the regular, I ain't letting you get away with all that you just did. So let me just back, because I certainly don't check the number of downloads every single week as a way of keeping score and checking in on things. All I wanted to say there, and granted, I overheard half the conversation there because I needed to change a diaper and take care of some things for little Penn. I think you are right that the overpraise can become a problem. But as I said again, and I don't want to speak for you two individually, but like baby boomers were pretty shitty about praising us,
Yeah.
or greatest generation, whoever your parents were. And I have been a long believer in pendulums, in the idea of almost every time something in a society goes too far one way, it's probably because not that long ago it went too far the other,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
so I just wanted to throw that out of the problem of praise being one that there is. I am both worried about the problem people are seeing, but I'm also really worried about the idea if we go back to kind of like you never get praise for just doing the basics, because validation's important, praise is important, getting your cookies are important, and there has to be some middle ground between the when you're absolutely outstanding, you get something as a reward versus the participation trophy and everyone gets an award. There's got to be some middle ground, as well as just some questioning of why are we keeping score to give awards instead of just saying like, hey, good job.
Yeah. And I think the part of it is the culture of you showed up and that's a hard thing is
Mm-hmm.
important too, right? Like I like it when I go to the gym and work out real hard and I come home and Kira tells me that she thinks I'm awesome. Like I got through the door of the gym. I did the
Of the
thing.
what? What's that word you're using? I'm not
Exactly
familiar with
my
that word.
point, right? That is the thing that's like top shelf hard for me to get to. And
Mhm.
I do like that's the equivalent of for me the you were here ribbon. I didn't do anything really spectacular while I was there, but I did commit to being there. And that
Right.
is sometimes the hard thing. I wonder if the problem I have with the entire mentality is we're too easy at determining what is the hard thing, right?
Right.
Like we're saying part of it, and it's the same mentality around saying be careful to your kid when they're about to do something reckless. Usually, and that's not a thing we're supposed to say anymore, right? We're supposed to say, be thoughtful, be aware, because be careful implies an anxiety about something that our child is about to do that we have, probably not that they have. And by saying be careful, we're offering that to them as something they should have anxiety about.
So instead,
Sure.
we should be really, really worried that we are being too anxious.
We should just be quiet about it. We should
Yeah.
stuff it down like dad did and his dad before him. Swallow it. No, but you get my point. Like I'm constantly aware of the things that I feel like I'm offering to my children as inheritance of my own anxieties, and I don't want to give them that stuff.
Yeah.
They don't deserve it. They need to find their own things to to be worried about. It's awful.
I think
Ran out of
there's something-
runway.
There's something really essential about what you said, though, about going to the gym. And here's a way I think maybe to tie it back to what we were talking about earlier about that need to keep score in competition. Because when I hear these discussions, a lot of times people jump to that everything is becoming gamified now. There are all these apps that will give you rewards if you keep track of all these things, whether it's your diet or your gym membership or how often you wash the dishes or whatever it is. And I think it's really easy to dismiss all of those things out of hand, and I get why there's some concern.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if maybe the big switch that's needed isn't away from keeping score as much as it is from comparing against each other. Because a lot of those apps, to me, how many days I go to the gym shouldn't be something I compare to my neighbor. it should be something I compare to me of last week.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, and,
Right.
and how much weight do I lift should be compared to me from last, and how many, you know, do I do the dishes this many times versus how many times did I do them last week or the week before or the year before?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard. And I think, but I kind of wonder if that's also kind of a middle ground to strive for is, yes, I'm keeping score is okay, but how do we make it to the, and then again, there's a question, then how do we then make this about our child? Because I don't want to be comparing my child to my child. That seems silly.
Also,
You
don't
know,
want to be comparing my child to me
Right. Also,
of this
also
week or
true.
last week or any time.
Oh my gosh, I got a C in this class, and so you need to at least get a C plus, or you need, you know, I never made it past the high school team, so I want you to make the college team. Like,
Yeah.
that
Wait,
seems-
can I compare my kid to Pete though? Or
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. That's
Some
fine. That's no
cross
you've established-
pollinating of
Yeah.
comparing is okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
because
Cool.
your kid's going to be in a damn cabaret. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, that's the.
Yep.
You know, I got lucky there, but people are like, "Oh, you must have really, you must love it. You must have pushed him to get on the stage." And I really
Right.
didn't at all. That's who he is and wants to
Yeah.
be.
Right.
And that's great. But
Which is how it should be, which is
But
great.
where I do compare is because Casey is male and doing musical theater, he is a star. He gets every lead part.
Yeah.
He's getting begged to do productions. And, you know, I'm thinking, well, I didn't get begged to do productions. I was lucky if I made it into the chorus because there were 40 girls auditioning for that and only 2 boys. And so
Mhm.
he's
Wow.
reaping those benefits of it. And I mean, I don't share that with him, but I'm like, that's not fair.
Yes. Yes. Oh, for sure. I have a very a weird relationship with that. My son is off at college, and he was just hired as a podcast producer for the news outlet. A
That's
podcast
great.
producer. He's interviewing professors and doing news stories as a sophomore, which is awesome. I'm so proud.
Some of
And
our listeners don't know that you are, in fact, a creator of many, many podcasts and a producer of podcasts.
I have made a podcast. That is true.
Yes,
And
many,
and
many.
I love it that he is doing this, and
Mm-hmm.
also I have a little bit of that same vibe. Like
Are you
It-
saying, Pete, that you couldn't get a student job to be producing podcasts when you were in college?
It was if I could not get it producing podcasts, it was just different. There wasn't an economy for this kind of communication, and I feel like I am both very, very lucky to be a part of an industry that has created a place for him to land this early in his
Right.
education. And I'm proud of that. And also, I have a little bit of that too, Mandy, that wait a
Mhm.
minute. Wait a damn minute.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's funny.
one thing I've thought a lot about is this in regard to, you know, raising a child that, at least as far as I know right now, is male. Because I'm really hoping that this child will not have to deal with an awful lot of the toxic masculinity that I grew up with.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have to think about is that how do I raise him, how do I try as much as I can to keep toxic masculinity out of the way he's raised? How do I inoculate him for the fact that we still do live in a patriarchal society and that he will get some of it? And how do I fight my own envy that he doesn't have to deal with the toxic masculine bullshit that I had to deal with, you know?
Yeah.
Because on some level there is still that I had to work 24-hour shifts as a resident, so you should have to too, you
Mhm.
know? And
Mhm.
I hope I never say the words man up to him. And I'm also going to be envious that he doesn't have, you know, asshole parents and other adults in his life saying, you know, you've got to man up. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's this weird thing of we want to build this better life for our kids. And that's great. But then also a part of us is like, but why didn't I get to have that life?
Yeah.
Of course, that's natural. And, but, you know, don't worry, Matthew, you'll screw up in other ways.
Oh, so
We
many,
all do.
so many opportunities for that.
We might not repeat the sins of our parents,
Yeah.
but we
We'll
look
create
back
new
and we
ones.
think, oh God, why did I say that? Why didn't I think of this? You know, we screw up.
Yeah.
And I want to put on record that I actually had, my mother was very affectionate and praised me. And she was wonderful about that. She was not stoic, you know, 1950s classic parent at all.
Mhm.
She was incredible. I was not raised in the 50s for the record. But she has course corrected herself and she is so hard on me now. And it's strange that this person
Really?
I felt, yes, I mean, she will literally say, "Well, I've seen you do better. I don't know. This, you know, she's read my screenplays and said, "Meh, I don't know."
Oh,
It
wow.
it and I'm
Wow.
thinking, what happened to the woman who not overly praised me, but who would say, "God, you put so much work into this. I'm so proud of you. I love it," you know?
Yeah.
But she ain't got time for that
Fascinating.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I guess who does?
Yep.
Uh, okay. Well, that's grim.
Well, I guess we do evolve and change as we, you know,
Well, I'll tell you
turn into our parents.
it really does. It makes me think about it because of where I am as a parent. It makes me think about like we're in this place of trying to figure out how our kids are going to launch. Where are they going to live? What's it like moving into a new apartment for the first time? We did that this weekend, and it's a huge transition. And you
Mhm.
don't like, do you have dishes? Do you have forks? You know, like, do
Mhm.
you know how to get groceries? You don't have a car. Do you know how you're going to do that? And are you going to be able to do that without going broke? It is hard to watch that happen and not sound like my dad.
Of course.
That is incredibly difficult.
There's some insurance company, I believe now, and no one say what the name of it is because I don't want to like give advertising credit. But their advertisements are based on this whole idea of like we
Yes.
can't stop you from turning into your parents.
Mhm.
And every
Yep.
now and then, the thing that the people turning into their parents does, I'm like, oh, that's oh God. You
Yeah.
know?
Right. That's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problematic. That's
Yep.
problematic.
Yeah.
I do love that
Yeah.
campaign.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pen, is
Do
it
you want
time
to
for us
weigh
to wrap
in?
this up, Pen?
I think this is probably about time to do some wrapping up.
Yes.
So
Look
Oh,
at that.
look at that.
yeah, I
Oh.
know.
Oh, Grumpus.
We're your pod parents.
Yeah.
Get it?
Oh,
Not
godparents,
godparents,
parents.
pod parents.
Oh,
I
Mandy,
was thinking
brilliant.
that if any of you come across this, a tiny little pair of headphones with a microphone, let us
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I think that would make a great little Halloween thing.
It'd be
Oh,
awesome. Tiny
My little
headphones.
so sweet. He is so sweet.
All right, I'm muting. Someone give a
Okay.
wrap up for us.
You got it.
Yes.
Mandy will
Do
do
it,
it.
Pete. I'll do it. You've been listening to the Once and Future Parent podcast with Matthew Fox of the Ethical Panda. You can get their content on True Story FM. You can get Pete. Where can everybody find you, Pete, right?
Same thing, True Story FM. I'm everywhere.
And
Too
I'm
many
only one other
places.
place. I am at makemeanerd.com or True Story FM. Make Me a Nerd is my podcast. And it's been a joy sharing our parenting thoughts and troubles and fun with you all. Until next time, I forget what Matthew says as we sign off.
May the force be with you.
There it is.
Pushing buttons.